You know that good old experience where you find someone you really like, you start dating them and they're awesome in the beginning, right? Maybe you're dating for so many months until you start to get a little bit more serious and go into a relationship, then they switch up. They're not like they were in the beginning. You start realizing you've been dating their representative. I'm going to tell you exactly why that's happening and how to avoid it going further. First, let's talk about what the representative actually is, right? Because I think it's kind of turned into a real negative stand we put on people, almost to say that this person was being fake. They were faking it till you make it, right? Fake it till you make it to the finish line of being with me. And then now you start showing your true colors. And it has this real negative connotation to it. And it suggests that everyone that this happens with had an intention to bamboozle you until they got what they wanted. And where, yes, some people out there exist like that, right? Some people are out there just being selfish and just playing a role until they can get the prize or whatever they're after. But more often than not, it's not a matter of someone trying to show you the representative at all. It's more of a matter of people are excited about things or about new people coming into their lives, and they start to pull from all the best parts of themselves that they possess, because all of us has the ability to show certain characteristics. All of us has those things in us, but it's not a matter of you having them. It's a matter of who you operate as daily for those characteristics to live on the forefront consistently. Think about it like getting a new job, right? In the very beginning, when you're going to go to this job interview, you want to put your best foot forward, right? You go ahead, you get your best dressed suit that you can put on. You start getting yourself together, you get that haircut or whatever you do to make yourself look all polished and cleaned up. Not something you probably do every single day. Maybe some people do, but majority of people, you're not walking around dressed to the nines and looking like $1 million every single day. But when you go to this interview, you do that, don't you? You put your best game face on. And then when you show up, you're trying to put your best interview skills to the test, right? And show that you can do the job. And it's not because you're trying to go in there and be fake and try to make them believe something that's not accurate about you. No, you're trying to show I have what it takes to be here, right? I'm your guy, I'm your woman. But when you go on this interview, you're extremely excited, aren't you? Because it's a new opportunity, something that you really want, right? Something that you actually have value in and you really want to make that relationship start off in the best way so that they know, hey, you're here to be able to be an asset to them. And that just saying that they're going to be an asset in your life to have this new job or this new role, right? So then what happens? You go through the interview, you're all smiles, you're all positive, saying the greatest things, you're pulling to the forefront all of your best qualities to show that you can do this role. And then what? You get the job, right? And then on the first so many days, first so many weeks, first so many months, you're employee of the month, right? You're doing the best. You're flying or floating around that job or that office or whatever it is that you're doing. And you're being all-American employee. And then what happens? Slowly over time, you get used to the job. The fresh new car smell wears off and you start to balance out into a little bit more of what your norm is. Not the norm because those other attributes aren't still you, but because this is more reflective of how you are on a daily when you're not super excited. You're not head over heels, with joy and anticipation for this new experience. Once it's become normalized to you, this is how you operate. Where maybe you still do a good job at the job, right? Maybe you still execute your responsibilities and you still do them, effective enough and you're getting the job done and your goal is to do good work, but it doesn't have that same pep in your step like it used to. It doesn't have that same giddiness to it because you have this raw energy that makes you want to just go above and beyond. Maybe you're still going above average, but it's not the same way you were coming into the equation in the very beginning. You see, it's not because you were trying to be fake when you got that job. It's because we oftentimes organically pull the best things out of us whenever it's kind of drawn out of us through, organic motivation, right? But if you have not built the patterns, the habitual system that reflects those things that are coming out of you more organically and on their own without you have to put as much effort into it, then it's going to seem like you switched up and you're not the employee that you showed this company on your interview. And that's the exact same thing that's happening with the person you're dating whenever you're getting a representative. It's not the representative at all. It's all the best parts of them on the forefront that when they're on this date, just like whenever you're on that interview, you feel like, oh, I'm showing them who I am. This is me, right? Because you're all giddy. You're in this, real charged up energy. You're not thinking about the fact that some of these elements of you, where they are there inside of you, they haven't been built and trained up to where they're a regular part of your everyday life whenever you're not stimulated from positive and exciting energy. That's different. And then so over time, as that exciting energy dies down, so does some of the parts of them that hasn't had the training to be in the forefront regularly and not just whenever excitement motivates it out of them, right? But for you, it starts feeling like, oh, you switched up. You were this whole other person. Now you're doing something else. You bamboozled me, right? That's how you feel. And then they can't see that. They don't realize it because they don't know that they switched up so much because they were moving off of raw excitement and infatuation and all the things in the beginning, all the chemical balances going on to where in their mind, they're still being the same person they've been all this time, right? And they don't realize that that excitement that pulls certain parts of them out of them is not being present anymore. Now, they may be aware to a degree that they've changed some of the things. They're not doing some stuff they were doing before that were overt, obvious things, but they can't see it at the same level you do because you're outside of them experiencing them. And it's so much harder to know how someone else is experiencing you when you are the person and you're inside your own experience. Now, let's talk about how you avoid this, right, going forward. And we're going to start with making sure you're aware of something on your end that you may not be aware of. See, in any relationship dynamic, even dating dynamic, it takes two to tango, right? And so just as much as that person was coming in as this quote unquote representative, they were all excited and hyped up on, dopamine and all these things for you and all these feelings going on. So it pulls out the best characteristics and parts of them that they usually wouldn't be doing, but they're not realizing it. The experience they're getting from you that made them excited in the first place is what's keeping them there as well. So just as much as they may be starting to normalize and balance out, oftentimes that's also happening in respect or response to how you are still or are not showing up anymore, where you're not as giddy and as over the top as you once were in the beginning. You're not doing all the same things the same exact way that you were. You're not responding to messages as fast as you used to. You're not being as considerate and as thoughtful, all different things, right? You've toned down some, and now they've naturally or organically recognized that as well. And so they're not as motivated to show up the way they were because they're not getting the same experience to show up for like they were. So the first piece to being able to avoid dating someone's representative to a point to where it winds up impacting you in a negative way is to make sure you're not showing up with your representative first, right? The more authentic and true you can be to how you are in the norm, no matter what, is going to be so much better and put you in so much of a better position to weed out and identify if the other person is using more of a representative up front versus if you come in all super excited as well and you're putting up a front or an experience that is not reflective of your everyday life, then now you're going to set yourself up to attract or wind up being in an orbit with someone else that does the same thing. Now, I'm not saying come into the dynamic being, low energy and trying to intentionally not be excited. That's fine to be excited. It's fine to have that fresh new car smell of an experience to a degree, but just be very mindful of the actions you take during this time period and be honest with yourself to say whether or not these are things that you can maintain for a lifetime, right? Because this is the impression. This is the standard you're setting for this person you're dating. Make sure it's accurate. And so what you'll notice is if you are making sure you're being accurate in that, meaning where you may be excited and happy to be dating this person and getting to know them, but you're also still posing challenging questions. You're still letting them see the moments where you're not maybe as excited all the time so they can see what that normal energy looks like and see how they respond to that, to where you actually challenge them more in different ways or different areas to where in the beginning, nobody wants to rock the boat. Everyone's being like super safe because I don't want to scare this person off and I'm enjoying them so much. I don't want to ruin the fantasy, right? You have to intentionally try to poke some daggers in that. Not meaning you're going to try to be negative and bring some issue up, but little moments where you can see, hey, well, I need to know more about that. Let me see how accurate that is for you, right? Let me see how genuine this really is that you're doing. Not in some interrogative way, but with fun, inquisitive questions that get deeper responses. that actually gives you better insight. So with that said, the second thing you're going to do is while you're in this dating journey with them, you're going to think of more intentional things to ask them that strength tests and vets the things you're seeing, right? You're going to be kind of in the background watching the things that they're doing and watch the supporting actions they do around it that will suggest that this thing, this experience you're getting from this gesture they may be doing for you is not a one-off. It's not something they just started doing newly, right? Ask them questions like, oh, you always do this? Or how often do you do something like this? Or how long have you been doing it? When did you learn this, right? What makes you want to do this? Get some backing, some backdrop to the why they do the things they're doing. If they're saying stuff like, oh, no, I never did this before, but you pulled this out of me, or I'm inspired with you to do this, or I don't do this for everybody. They say things that says this is like just some rarity, should be on your flags list, right? Now, because someone says I don't do this for everyone doesn't mean it's like bull, like they're just, selling you a bill of goods. That may be accurate. They may be inspired by you to pull a part of themselves out that they don't usually do. But then find some other action they do in life that will suggest if they do this for you, then this other thing would show that they do it in other ways as well. Maybe they're a compassionate person towards you and they really are thoughtful towards you. Well, look for other examples of them being compassionate in their life with other people. Maybe their family members, maybe their friends, maybe a random gesture to a stranger on the street. Something that just reflects a foundation that the thing you're experiencing is coming from their principles of how they operate as a person. Remember, consistency of actions is always what you want to see, and consistency of the right actions that fit for you. But then even more important than that is making sure the actions you're seeing are coupled or supported by actions that parallel with it that may have nothing to do with that action that you're looking at or that you're experiencing, but they're tied to it with the same fundamental principles and morality behind it. That's what you want to look for. We are a circle, a pie of a person and of a life, right? We have a pie of an existence. So make sure one area of the pie still makes sense to other areas so that you can believe this is just who they are, not just a moment that they're in or a season that they're in or them just being excited about me. So if you show up more as you, genuine you from day one, and then you in turn challenge them to be more of them from day one, right? And then you look for the supporting evidence that confirms what you're seeing all around them in their lives as a lifestyle matches up. I guarantee you'll avoid dating representatives and start getting to dating the actual person a lot more often. Let's get it.